Welcome to Duval County Community Compact webinar series. Maintaining consistent participation of mentors and volunteers is the first of 3 webinars in the series. Volunteering and Civic Life in America, an annual research report issued by the Corporation for National and Community Service and the National Conference on Citizenship, shows that volunteering in the U.S. remains a strong component of the fabric of our nation across generations. In fact, 64.5 million Americans served 7.9 billion hours of volunteer service in 2012, worth an estimated $175 billion. So what's the best way to recruit volunteers? Be passionate about your organization and its mission. As you share your message, people will take interest because of your enthusiasm. Attend promotional community, civic, or religious events. Contact or register with a local volunteer or nonprofit center. Ask your current volunteers to recruit their friends and family. Advertise your need for volunteers. Use the local television and print media, social media, and other social service organizations. People of all ages are volunteering, so use multiple outlets to recruit volunteers. While older Americans still make up the bulk of our volunteers, no certain age group completely dominates our volunteer workforce. Teens and Gen Xers both represent about 30%, and both are increasing those percentages. Knowing what motivates someone to volunteer is important in assessing whether you can meet their expectations. For example, if someone says they want to volunteer to meet people, then the volunteering opportunity must involve working with others. Sometimes people can't pinpoint exactly what has motivated them, so you may have to dig a little. A volunteer's original motivation for joining is not always the same as their reason for staying, so it's always worth asking what motivates them to stay. This will help to alert you to new opportunities that these volunteers might like to try. Having an effective volunteer program and being an effective volunteer manager requires commitment and skill. Choosing who has this role is key to the success of your volunteer program. This role can be fulfilled by different people depending on the organization. Factors such as the size of an organization, the number of volunteers, and the type of work volunteers do, and the skills and expertise required, all impact who actually takes on this role. It could be the manager's CEO, a paid staff member, a paid volunteer manager, or a volunteer manager. The Duval County Community Compact leveraged partnerships with other organizations to provide adult mentors. While the other organizations managed the mentors, program staff provided the mentors a point of contact at the school site. So, what are the benefits of managing your volunteers well? The agency is more likely to attract and retain the right volunteers and benefit from their involvement. Having a standardized approach to dealing with volunteers provides organizations with direction and ensures that volunteers and program staff are aligned. Volunteer management practices are ongoing even when volunteers leave. The keys to success are not complicated. 1. Plan. Maintain a very organized and structured volunteer program. Keep current contact information on all of your volunteers. Track their volunteer hours for future reporting. If you're recruiting volunteers who will come into contact with children or vulnerable client groups, then you will have to have a stringent screening process that should include a background check. 2. Train, and train. A trained volunteer is an effective volunteer. Make sure volunteers know the purpose or mission of the organization and, above all, how their work relates to achieving that purpose. Outline clear roles and responsibilities for the volunteer. Remember, volunteers represent your organization. Training allows them to represent it well. 3. Communicate. Give volunteers and mentors a point of contact for when they need help or face challenges. Stay connected to your volunteer force. Make certain you know what they're doing and that they know what the organization is doing. A simple monthly newsletter is a good way to keep volunteers informed. Managing your volunteers is an ongoing process. Check in frequently, at least twice per month, during the initial stages of the volunteer relationship. This is especially important for mentoring programs. Provide ongoing training. Let volunteers know they are making a difference. Tell them the results of their efforts. And don't forget to recognize your volunteers. Thank your volunteers as often as you can. Create a recognition program for your volunteers. Everyone likes to be thanked for the work they do. Applaud and highlight the volunteers who are succeeding with their assignments. People need to feel like their time commitment to your organization is worthwhile and not wasted. Make sure they feel valuable. What are simple ways to recognize volunteers? Thanking volunteers at the end of the day. Knowing your volunteers by name. Acknowledging specific contributions undertaken by a volunteer. Being genuine in your praise. Holding special volunteer events. Retaining volunteers is both an indicator of and a key to success in volunteer management. When volunteers keep coming back, it is a sign that the program is being managed in a reasonable way. Make sure there is work for them to do. Nothing is more frustrating than to volunteer for an organization and then find out there is nothing to do. For volunteers to stay and be effective, volunteers and organizations must be a good match. Therefore, clear role descriptions and recruitment and selection procedures are essential. Knowing what motivates someone to volunteer is important in assessing whether you can meet their expectations. For example, if someone says they want to volunteer to meet people, then the volunteering opportunity must involve working with others. Sometimes people can't pinpoint exactly what has motivated them, so you may have to dig a little. So check your opportunity suit. A volunteer's original motivation for joining is not always the same as their reason for staying, so it's always worth asking what motivates them to stay. This will help to alert you to new opportunities that these volunteers might like to try. Thank you for viewing Duval Community Compact's webinar on maintaining consistent participation of mentors and volunteers. Please take time to see our other webinars in this series on parental and community involvement. Both can be found on our website, duvalcommunitycompact.org.